Good good morning everybody. Welcome to Morning Jumpstart. I'm Jason Meyer and we have a big program today. Today we're going to look at some student work and um, we're going to talk about structure. Structure and somehow everything came in today and it's going to be the absolute perfect day to talk about that. So this is also going to be really nice because we're going to see this from a beginner's perspective to the very advanced perspective. So I'm trying to finish one last thing here. A little bit behind tonight. I think that's the one I want right there, actually. There we go. Or this morning, as you can tell. Some days you just run faster than others. Today I'm running a little slow. But I think as we get into this, we're going to, now it says Masterworks, oh man. All right. Like I said, my new glasses are coming, and I hope this gets a lot easier when my new glasses get here. So we'll see if I can get my act together when they are here. But in the meantime, let's see here. Let's get rid of that. I think I got what we need. And let's see if everything got loaded up this morning. All right. So, since I want to do structure today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, and I've got most everything I'm going to work on today in black and white. And I'm actually just going to look and talk about it in black and white first, because that's the value structure. That's our number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And when I do that, I think you guys are going to clearly see what's going on. So remember that most all of you, I would say probably all of you, have a camera on your phone. And when you take a picture of something, you have the option of editing that photo. And when you go into the edit, there's going to be something that says black and white. Do that. And then look at the photo of your painting in black and white and see what you see at that point. Right? It's very, very, very revealing. So what we're going to do today, you do have the ability to do this on your own work if you want to see how far you can push it before you get it in. So we'll do black and white first, and then I'd like to jump over to color, and we'll see how much time we have here. If you know me, I'm usually a little bit over ambitious. So if everything goes right, we will see Paula up first, then we'll see Katie and Janny and Susan, and then we've got Claudia at the very end. I'm hoping I get you today, Claudia. If not, we'll talk tomorrow. But I put Claudia at the end because hers is a little bit different of a topic than I think the rest of these. Okay? So, let us get going. We got Susan here. Good morning, Shakti. And good morning, Susan. I can't remember if I put this up. Oh my goodness. I need these new glasses to get here. All right, so why don't we do a little do-si-do here. Let's start right here. Whoops. Now we'll come over here. We'll get a new layer. All right, so let's look at how all this ties together. So I'm going to put my dark, and I'm just going to work in black and white. And my black and white might be a little bit different than this photo. So we're not reading like warm or cool or anything like that in there. But let's say this is our number 4. 4. And then let's make number 3 right there. So the point of number 3, almost really the definition of number 3. Half the definition of number 3 is that it's lighter than number 4. Number 3. And I know when you start, or at least when I started, if I heard crazy talk like this, I was like, what does this have to do with anything I am trying to do? All right, and then I'm going to push this a little bit. Right, and let's push this to there for number 2, so that my biggest jump is between number 2 and number 3. Right? At the beginning, it doesn't matter. You know, the first thing to get is learn to interpret what we're seeing and what we're doing into these 4 values. Let's turn that up about 15. And then we'll get number 1 right there. Whew. Okay. So these are our 4 values that we talk about. And if you guys hear me say our number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, that's what I'm talking about. Generally speaking, go ahead and layer up again so I can take these notes on and off. Number 1's going to be highlight. Number 2 will be light. Number 3 will be background, or what sometimes I like to call air. You'll also hear me call this vague. Okay, so ultimately my language is meant to point in directions. All right, it's not meant to get you to a very specific place at a specific time, but it's a direction of movement we're going. Okay? So number 3 is background, air, vague, and then number 4 would be our shadow, and sometimes I call it our dark. Now, not every painting you ever see is in this scenario, but I believe this is the best scenario to learn and to quickly get control over what we're doing. Okay, so if you're not crazy about this scenario, I'm going to ask you just to go along with me anyway for a little while, and I promise you that I'm going to try to, as quickly as I can, get you into things that you are crazy about. All right, so number 1, highlight. Number 2 is our light. Number 3 is our background, our air, our space, our vague. And number 4 is our shadow and what we're calling dark here. Okay? All right, so let's get to work. Let us get to work. So number 4 we use for darks and we use for shadows. Now, we should have asked, but I kind of see. I see there's sort of a shadow going this way. So I'm going to use that right now to tell me that the light is coming in from the front top, right? Coming that direction. And if I know that, and if I know the head is basically an egg, right? Yeah, everybody's head's a little bit different, but we've all got the same sort of skull underneath that. And that skull in space, we can simplify into an egg. And an egg, when you apply light and shadow to it, if the light's coming this direction, then that shadow is going to look like this. This hair will have a little shadow in it. Right? And then this side of the hair as well will be dark. Okay, so noticing I'm not thinking about the face versus the hair. I'm thinking about foreground, which is our person, our portrait. And I'm thinking about shadow. Now that shadow sits on the, head sits on the cylinder, on the neck, and that neck's something like a tube, the light's coming in from this direction, right? Then the tube is going to be shadowed like that, with a soft edge right here. But we've also got a cast shadow from the head, and it's going to go around like that, and then this whole thing will cast a shadow across the shoulder. Okay, so what's the main difference here between this and this? I mean, what's the biggest difference we see immediately? Do you see there's more strength in the work here? Right? There's a stronger visual image. Okay, and so since our work is visual, right, it's not made for people to taste. Our work's not made for people to listen to with their ears. This is a visual work. It's made to interact with our eyes. And most of us believe that color is what dictates everything. But in fact, without value, color is almost meaningless. Okay, so value is prioritized over color always. And the reason for that is that's how things have or lose visual strength. Okay? All right, so I'm going to simplify this a little bit for the sake of time. So don't hold me to my drawing here. But that would be the big forms. And what I mean by the big form is the head as an entire entity is a big form. The nose is a smaller form set on top of the bigger form. Okay, so we want to go back or back up till we get to the kind of the biggest, simplest forms we can work with. So the whole head as a structure, the whole neck as a structure, the shoulders and torso as a structure, independent of who in particular this is. But it will depend on, right? It will depend on where the light is coming from. Okay. So after we do our number 4, now let's get the whole big structure set up, and then we'll talk about smaller structures on top of that. So, and then let's say this shirt was dark, and so it went dark. That's fine, and then so we'll leave that as is. Then when our number 3 value, we're going to put that in the background. Because it's kind of a middle value, that's going to make it weak. Weak. What do you mean weak? Well, number 2 is lighter, and number 4 is darker. Right? And so since number 3 is in the middle, we tend to go to the extremes of things. We're going to look at the extremes of things. So we're going to look at our number 4 and our number 2. And if we handle our number 3 right, it'll just kind of go away. And I know some of you have seen this quite a few times. And if you have, I'm going to ask you to still be open and watch this happen. Because the more and the more you see this happen, just, man, the more and the more you understand it. Okay? So since this is background, the job of this visually, again, we're not tasting this canvas. is for this part of the canvas to disappear or go away. Oops, did I muck myself up? I mucked myself up because I didn't take my lines out of there. All right, so let's come back here, and I'm going to come down to this layer, and I want this to be above that. Then when I come back here, I can color my background without losing my key here. Okay, so when I color over that, since it's a layer above it, but look, number 3 disappeared. Did you see number 3's gone? Well, because it's the same value as the background now. So you can't see it. It's still there, but since it's the exact same color that it's sitting on, or value that it's sitting on, it has disappeared. Okay, so you see we still have a visually strong image now. And that image, especially since the light, which I haven't touched yet, is lighter than the background and the dark's darker than the background, look how this thing, even with no edge control or whatever, still looks like it's in front of that gray background. All right, but let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. All right, so let's get our number 2 now, which is our light. So if this is our kind of egg-like, then our light is going to look like this on there. Okay, do you guys see the strength of these value patterns? And how if I've got control of my values, if I have control of my values, I have control of your eyes. All right. Okay, no problem, Janny, no problem. No problem. Yeah, it really pushes things forward, and that's the point, right? Is to make this one visible. That's our first thing we're asking for, is visibility. The second thing is that 3-dimensional quality, right? And so before we even try to think about the roundness and the 3-dimensionality of the form, even just setting up the values like this brings the number 4 and the number 2 forward. And then the number 1 is used for saying, hey, this isn't flat, this is round. And I tell them that by getting them inside or showing them basically corners. Okay, so that's the whole setup, something like that without edges or anything like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, why don't we leave this one here and we can go further another time, but just to show you then, well, what about, well then what's a nose? Well, the nose is going to come out and that side will be shadowed. Turn under the eye. This eye will turn under. Okay. This nose would cast a shadow as it's fall. Just like that cast a shadow, the head cast a shadow on the neck. The nose cast a shadow on the face. The nose cast a shadow on the face. Going a little bit big there. And the eyes are round, they're balls inside the eye sockets. And we know balls. Do you see how this, and the chin, a little bit of a ball. And then we go to work on our smaller forms. Now I'm being a little bit of a clod with my shadow shapes. But even not having them right, it's very easy to imagine a face here with no detail whatsoever. Okay, so the idea is we want a solid structure underpinning all of our work. So let's go. Okay, so that's what we started with. And what are we really seeing? Well, what we really see here is the darks at the bottom of the canvas. So if we think about lighting and shadow this thing as a whole thing, then our dark literally will transcend hair and face and neck and shoulders. And so rather than having those as distinct things, we've tied them together, unified them with this value shape. Okay. And then it's just a matter of setting up the appropriate values to get the job done, right? And it's important to simplify it into 4 values, because ask anybody who's been around here a little while, it's not going to stay this simple very long. It's going to get extremely complex, extremely fast. So don't go trying making this part more complex. Because unless you can do this very simply, oh, Bubba. Oh, Bubba, Bubba, Bubba. We're going to have a hard time. Right? But if we do keep it this simple, we can quickly learn to master. So, what if we did that here? Our number 4 value, but if we gave it more of a skin tone quality, then this color is going to look something like this. Now, if I like color, and I have a feeling you like some color, what I might do is, well, this isn't going to read as color until I get the whole thing covered. Okay, there's our head shadow. There's the neck shadow falling on over to the shoulder. Why? Because the light's coming this way, and the neck is standing in front of the shoulder, blocking the light that's coming that way. The head is standing above the neck and blocking the light that would be hitting there. Right? So what we're doing is we're showing the relationship of these objects with the shadow pattern. Okay, so if we do all that, right, and then again, if we were going to do the nose, the eyes, cast shadow, chin, the lip, top lip turns under. And again, I'm not taking my time because the drawing, the precision, right, that takes a long time, but do you see we've got the face there, we've got it strong, and then it's the spacing between those dark shapes, right? How tall, that's going to make it a particular person. Then if we went to our background, what we want to do, oops, I went pretty light on that one, so our background, let's push that up a little bit. But since we want that to go away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, you got this blue, that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the color down. Because just like the value, I want that background to go away, to recede, not to advance. And the weaker the chroma, the more the color will recede. So I'm going to take the saturation of this and make it very, very, very gray. Now when I do that, look, my value changes. It lightens up a little bit. So we may have to drop this down to here. But now, when I do this, what you're going to begin to see is that shadow color is now stronger than my background color. And when we first start studying color, we have a hard time thinking of color in terms of relationships. We think of color in terms of absolutes. No blue, no orange, no. Well, it seems bluish or orangish because of the situation it's in. And that misunderstanding leads most people to use too much chroma when they start. And chroma is what most people think of as bright color. But chroma is just one quality of color. So what you're going to see is, as this grays off, without me even touching your skin tone is going to become a place of focus. So I hope what you're getting from this is sometimes to make things stronger, the thing to do is to remove things that are competing with it. Because our paint can only get so strong. And after we've used that strength, we've just got to make sure that no other paint comes into this. Boom. Now at first you might say, oh, I hate that gray, I hate that. I get it. I get it. Just go with it for a little while. Because we can add some more color to that background, just not as much as you had. Right, like I could sneak in a little more blue here and there. But what's going to happen if I start making this whole thing? You see the strength that it gains strength, it gets more power. And at first, most people think, yeah, stronger. And they think that because they're looking at one part of the painting instead of thinking about how this is infecting the entire painting. Okay, so the journey from student to layperson to artist to master is one about what you're doing. The student and the layperson notices this part and this part and this part and this part, and therefore goes to work on those individual parts. Whereas the master, the artist, does everything they do is consideration of the canvas as a whole and the finished painting. Okay? I've been saying that a lot this week, but again, it's just so powerful. So powerful. Now you can already see what that does. So I'm going to leave that on this one. Okay? And what I'd like to do is, how are we doing on time? Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Let's look at Katie. Okay. Okay, so what do we've got going on here? What do we've got? What's going on? Well, we're going here for sure, right? We're going here for sure. And this is for sure the first step we want to do, right? Is get the viewer to a place on the canvas. Okay, so excellent. Excellent, 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 excellent. Now, after we do this, the next common thing is, well, what now? Right? Because it can seem a little stiff, a little trapped. So, where is that trapped feeling coming from? Where is that trapped feeling coming from? Spaciousness in this one, yeah. So I wanted to pause for this seemingly interrupting our question here, because there's always more than one consideration. So spaciousness can come from openness, from opening some of these things, and I just said this is trapped. So where is this spaciousness that Shakti's seeing? Well, part of the feeling, right, because these are all intertwined, part of it is how big is what we're seeing compared to the size of the canvas, right? If something tells me I better layer up or I'm gonna get in trouble. Yep, look at that. There. If these oranges cover the entire canvases, it seems more like a very, very crowded subway or something, rather than three friends having a walk with some room around them. Okay, so that's very important. The size and placement of things is so important. Because again, when we start, we have a tendency to want to fill up the canvas with the object. Because we think the bigger the object, the more we can say about it and the stronger it will be. Well, again, that's one of our first misconceptions. So, yeah, nice point, Shakti. So, size and placement, very important. Okay. But let's get back to our light-dark pattern. And what if, we called this foreground, we called this foreground, and we called this foreground. Foreground in the sense of aesthetic foreground. Okay, so we want to think of aesthetic foreground, which is what the number 2 and the number 1 value can become, as opposed to the picture plane, which says this is forward, then we come to the oranges, then this is behind, and then that's behind that. Right? So picture plane is almost, you can think of as actual space. Right? And the aesthetic, you want to think of as visibility. What's most visible. And focus. Right? So those two things are tied together. So when I say more, I'm talking aesthetic. Okay? When I'm saying visible, I'm talking aesthetic visibility, or a light on top of a dark. Okay? So I hope that helps, and that's important because Katie, you're doing a lot of things very right. Meaning, look, you've got the space in front larger, and then the space behind as smaller. Well, that helps in that walking back. Right? Big in front and smaller as we go back. So there's a lot of very, very good things happening here. But I want to focus again on the structure. Okay, so how can we take this up even another notch? Well, what if we took this dark and made that shadow, and then took this gray and made that background? And when I say background, I mean aesthetic background. So some of that value might even be out here. Okay? So let us see what happens. All right, I hope I'm not coming too hot and heavy this morning. Hope you guys are doing okay. Again, I'm doing this not to jump on anybody or anything like that. I'm doing this to hopefully so you guys can see. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to start with my background value, and let's put that at about 35. All right, so we got a background in. So what I want to do is then the background, let's go ahead and make that there. And seemingly what I'm doing is I'm seemingly making the oranges or the lemons, whatever this is, weaker. Okay? But wait until we have all 4 values down to judge this. Okay? Wait till we get all 4 values down to judge this. How you doing, Millie? You singing the blues? Did Mama leave you? Mama had an appointment today. Mama had an appointment. She had to run off. And Millie's singing the blues. She came into the studio, said, "Hey, Mama left. I need a treat." And when she did, she trapped herself in the studio. And I'm live on air. And she's just laying at the door singing the blues. Singing the blues. Okay, so now what we've done is we've separated the table from the background. So but I said the table itself is kind of a background. An aesthetic background. So what if I made that table like a darker gray? Again, I'm kind of going over some things I taught you guys, and we'll get to that in just a second. But it's so important if you can really see what the number 1, what the number 2, what the number 3, and what the number 4 does. Right? If you can understand their role in our setup, you're just going to have so much more control, because value, man, you can get, not value, color, you can get so lost in color. So lost in color. But value is where all the power lies. So if we can figure out the value, then that's going to help us not get lost in color by limiting what our color can be, because we know our color has to stay within this value range. Then for my shadow, I'm going to drop down here. And so now I'm going to save my number 4 for my aesthetic foreground. So the light's coming in this time from this direction. And if we know it's coming in this direction, how do I know? Because look at where the highlights are. So if it's coming in this direction, well then that'll be that, and it casts a shadow, but it's also in front of this, so it's going to cast a shadow there as well. And when it does, we get this really nice negative shape locked up. Okay, and so that gives us our structure. If we can get our structure from here, then we no longer have to rely on a hard line around this for these things to be structural. Okay, so this negative shape, what that is doing is it's providing structure, which means that we're going to be able to open up a lot or some of these hard edges, which are like concrete walls. And they're not attractive. They're not very neighborly. Okay, and then we're not done because this has a shadow on it. And this has a shadow on it. So I've connected all three of these things, literally connected them through my shadow. So now this thing feels much more secure. And it feels more secure because if there's a bad storm and this guy loses everything, he is now connected to his neighbor where he can go get electricity and hot water, a cup of sugar. But if there is a big wall built between these guys, then if this guy is in trouble, he is really in trouble. Every man for himself. Nope, nope, not helping you out. Nope, not helping you out. Good luck, good luck. Man, that's just not a nice place to live. Right? And so literally this feels better. Okay? All right, now, and you get the highlights good. If I wanted to, well, why don't we just do that? Let's do one more step here. Let's go one more step. Where did I end up with my gray back here? 35. So what if I put my light at like 65, right? So it still doesn't even have to be that bright. When something starts, we want a hard edge, right? We can think about this as one side of the parentheses. And I could leave it open down there. And then look, I can blow right through here. So again, this is relatively dark. This is 65 on the value scale, right? And that's just from like 100 would be white. 65, that's close to a medium value, right? This isn't very light. And the reason I'm making a big deal about that is I want you to see the power if you get these patterns right. You don't have to use the nuclear option on values. You don't have to use a nuclear option on color. And I'm just avoiding her highlights because I think they work out. Okay, so if we've got all right, let's see what you're. This is what I was hoping for. This is what I was hoping for. I keep telling you guys all the time as I go over some of this really quote unquote seemingly basic stuff. This is when the most advanced things are understood. Okay, I just heard that for the first time, the structure of the shadow allows the openness of the rest of the form. Yes, 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 yes. That's exactly right. And that's why the number 4 value, we say this is where the structure comes from. That's what structure means. So now without doing anything else, how can we make this even stronger? Well, what if we went... Oops, we're going to have to go... Where are we going to have to go here? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this layer, and I'm going to merge this down to my layer underneath. And then what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to smudge this background together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge away between the table and the background. And I'm just going to make that a very slow, quiet transition. And do you guys see how much stronger that first piece of fruit is now? Right? The definition of the back of the shadow does not help. Does not help. The definition, the clarity of the back of the table does not help. Right? Sometimes we think we just have to make things more and more clear, where in fact sometimes the answer is to make it more vague. I say this a lot, but there's a band called Dawes, and in one of their songs they've got this lyric. Just love it. And I'm going to butcher the lyric, but it's something like, all these psychics and all these doctors, they're all right and they're all wrong. They're trying to sing along to every word when they should simply be humming along. Right? So we don't need full descriptions of everything. Sometimes we just want to, give me enough. I want to know what's happening, right? Don't surprise me. But how little can we give them? Look how strong that looks. Okay? So I know I'm probably not going to get to everybody here, but I want to finish this thought because, again, this is your key to the powerful painting. But Jason, you say all the time, put a dark in front. Well, okay. Well, let's take a look at that. If we wanted a little more of an introduction, oops, I need to come up here and put this layer there. I can take my dark and start my painting. Right? I can make like a little light path. But look, that light of the light path is still that gray. Do you see that? So the gray of the table is still much darker than the light on the fruit. But now I'm producing light and shadow on it. So if I wanted to, I could throw this whole thing in shadow, or a lot of it in shadow. And then we've got some like seemingly depth on the table. And then you guys heard me say that then behind, get some light behind the fruit to make it three-dimensional. Well, when I say that, And everyone, I've never seen anyone not do this. And because understandingly, the language is confusing because we're not talking in absolutes. What they do is they take the number 2 value and they stick light back there. And it's just too much. Instead, what if we took our gray value that's already back there, and so that's at 20, and we just lightened it up a little bit, right? Our light's at 65%. So the light on the table behind the shadow, I'm just going to take that up to 35%, and that's going to be huge. Now, most people will think, okay, well, we can, or we could be a little bit more careful and just put it right next to the shadow and then let it fade as it goes even back further. So do you see the difference between this light on the table and this? Look at that value difference. This and this are the same value. It's just the situation that it is in makes it shine. And so that what I'm doing here again is, instead of creating a hard edge on the back of the table, I've created that hard edge on the back of the shadow. Okay, guys. Okay, Susan. Keep saying it, Jason. We're listening. And like Shakti said, we'll hear it when we hear it. Yeah, and when I do this, I'm not trying to say, you know, God, you're so dumb. You literally can't understand it until you see it for your eyes. Or what happens is when you understand it, you literally see it. And until you have that vision, it's very hard to paint. So, I hope this helps out, Katie. I don't have time to show you this in color, unfortunately. But what I would like to do is I'd like to look at Susan's here in black and white. And what I did is I went back to one of her earlier versions. Right? And I want you guys to see the difference, because when we look at it in color, sometimes it's really hard to see where the problems are. But if we look at it in black and white, sometimes they're glaringly obvious. Now, for a novice, right, this is still going to be impossible to see. I get that. But after you've had some experience, you can probably see, look at what we've got set up here. That's our light dark pattern. Do you see that? Do you see that basically we got 2 lines running through here? Okay, so this is the big structure that I'm talking about. And unless we have this value structure set up so that it can hold and that it's exciting visually, really no matter what we do to the objects, it's not going to get us a good painting. But look how she's changed this value structure. Do you guys see the difference? How much better does this feel? How much better does this feel? This feels so much better to me. Look how quiet. We no longer, this isn't the main movements through the painting anymore. Now we have a quiet build up to our main boom. Susan, you gotta tell me, Where did you get your doo-wop singers? Oh my God, I love the doo-wop singers. Right, we've got the lead singer belting out, and we've just got this beautiful harmony and melody behind us. Doo-wop, doo-wop, bop, 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 doo-wop, doo-wop. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. So I hope you guys are able to see the difference in value patterns there, and how really value patterns hold it. And now, Susan, without even looking at your color, I've seen the color, but we can look and see what's wrong here without looking at the color photo, right? And if you already know, you know this, and maybe you can see this, but the problem is we've got a hard edge where we should have transitions or soft edges. That's it. That's it. You do that, man, I want a great big price tag on this thing. Huge price tag. I want my 10%. But yeah, right there. And then the other little thing you could do is, can we see kind of how abrupt this is right here? And is that really where we want to focus? Or would we rather have a little strength right there? So I think if we'll trade the visual strength here for there, and then don't get rid of the details, but the value visual strength, right? Do-si-do those two. And that was going to do the other thing, or help you do the other thing I said, is we could leave a start highlight here, and then we could let this kind of be a little not so bright, and let this light build to a climax right up there. Okay, so again, we're talking very, very subtle here. And the only reason I'm talking about that is because all of this is so right, and this will improve the overall painting. Okay? I'm not saying these things so that it can improve the rabbit. I'm saying it because it'll improve the painting. Okay, guys, I hope I wasn't too rough on you guys today. I know this could seem like a very basic class in some ways, but it really is value, 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 value. Okay? And I hated hearing that too. God, I hated it when they would say that. Color, color, color. No value, no value, no value. What do you mean, right? They would say that, but they would never show us. So I hope today that we were able to show you. Look at that, 8:59. All right, I'm going to keep this under an hour. And, yeah, Susan, right? Wow. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, Susan. That is right. It is beautiful. It is so beautiful. And it's beautiful because those values, I didn't even show them the color, Susan. I didn't even show them the color. Look. And they're all over it. They're all over it. All right, everybody. This was awesome. I hope you got a ton out of this. I'm really trying to give you guys the sorcerer's wand there, the power behind the magic. So take it, and use it. Use it for beauty. Go see beauty. Look for beauty. How can you make your paintings more powerful and beautiful? How can you be more powerful and more beautiful? All right. I want some good answers, guys. I want some good answers. We'll see you guys.